Alrighty, folks, thanks for your patience today. We're going to get started. Welcome to our Warrior webinar, Financial Aid and You. This Warrior webinar will be talking about financial aid. And if you have any questions during this time, just want to let you know that we have the Q&A feature down below. The chat has been disabled, so if you have any questions, please type it into the Q&A section. And if you see a question that is similar to yours, you can upvote it. That way it'll get placed at the top of the queue, and we'll be able to answer and see those questions right off the bat. This webinar is webinar style, so what that means is that you can see us, but we can't see you. All of your mics have been disabled and muted. This event is going to be recorded and will be posted to our YouTube page within 48 hours of the webinar's conclusion. So you can go back and watch this webinar on YouTube if you missed something or if you want something repeated at a later point in time. Before we begin, though, for those of you who want to connect with us in our admissions office, we just have a few different ways you can reach out to us. Our email, manoa.admissions@hawaii.edu. If you have any general questions, we can give us a call. We don't have a virtual front desk, but our financial aid office has a virtual front desk. We do one-on-one appointments with students. Next week, we have a Warrior webinar about student housing next week, Wednesday. So if you want, you can register for that. Some upcoming events that we have for students. We have the Manoa Experience on April 1st. And for students that are living in California, specifically Northern California, as well as Southern California, we have accepted student receptions in March. The 11th and the 12th is going to be for Northern California, and the 25th and 26th is going to be for Southern California. So different ways you can connect with us. We highly encourage you folks, if you have any questions outside of this webinar, to please reach out to us. So today we are joined by Jacob Nakasone, who is our lovely friend from the Financial Aid Office. And I'm going to hand it off to him to talk about financial aid and give you a rundown of financial aid and the process that goes along with it moving forward from here. So without further ado, warm round of applause for Jacob. Yay!
All right, thank you, Caden. Good afternoon, everybody. As Caden said, my name is Jacob Nakasone. I'm one of the financial aid counselors here at UH Manoa. And I'm usually the one who kind of goes out and does a lot of these kinds of outreach activities. So you'll probably see me in some other webinars or presentations for financial aid in the future. And if you've seen me in the past, then hello again. But yeah, so I'm just here to give you kind of like an overview of your financial aid options here at UH Manoa. So the things we're going to cover with help in financing your future, cost of attendance. I'm going to talk a little bit about the FAFSA, our financial aid process, scholarships, and loans. So these are all kind of the big points that are going to be relevant to almost all, if not all of you folks in your college journey, because it is to be honest, college isn't as cheap as it used to be. So this financial aid and financing does come in handy. It's very, very important. So the cost of attendance is basically a collection or a list of the costs that that the schools can determine that it would take for you to attend school for a given school year. So we have it broken down into 3 different categories based off of residency. So since that's going to be the biggest difference for each, tuition level. So for residents of the state of Hawaii, their tuition rate for a fall and spring semester, so a school year, is $11,304. For students who are part of the Western Undergraduate Exchange Program, that's kind of like an agreement that the Western states have with each other. They can receive 150% tuition charge that residents receive. So that comes up to $16,956 for the year. And then non-resident students, meaning anyone that's, I guess, not part of this Western undergraduate exchange, and any international students, they're looking at $33,336 in tuition for the school year. Other costs that are associated with attending school are the university fees or student fees. These are fees that all students have to pay, I guess, no matter which residency classification. It's for things like our student government fees, the student health center, publications, the radio station, basically all of the different things that are, I guess, included with attending the university. So all these other services have their little fees that are going to be added in there. We also have an amount for books and supplies as part of this cost of attendance budget. This is an estimation of what undergraduate students can expect to spend for books and supplies during the year. I know that for depending on your major and what kind of courses you're going to take, it may vary, maybe more, maybe less. But this is roughly the amount that the university has determined is like the average for students to spend. Room and board, this $13,673. This is based off of a student who's either going to be living on campus in one of our residence halls or living off campus, say in an apartment nearby, but not with family. For students who are going to be living with mom and dad during the school year, that room and board allowance is going to be substantially lower, since naturally it is cheaper to live at home than it is to live in the residence halls or pay rent at an apartment. And personal expenses are other personal costs that come up during the school year. So things like new clothing, even going out to see a movie on a weekend or something like that. So they do add in these additional personal expense costs as well, because we know that school's not just about study, but you do have to experience life during the school year as well. So altogether, these costs total what we call the cost of attendance. And this is what financial aid offices and universities across the country use to determine the maximum amount of aid a student is eligible in a given year. So everything has to fit within these costs of attendance. And if, like, say you receive a lot of scholarship funding and it exceeds this cost of attendance amount, we may have to adjust some of the financial aid money in order to fit everything within that. So the way that we do help cover all of these costs of attendance is the FAFSA, or the free application for federal student aid. The FAFSA opens up on October 1st every school year for the following, October 1st every calendar year for the following school year. So for those of you who are currently seniors, you probably already got hounded by your college counselors to do that FAFSA already. So you probably did it in that fall semester. For those of you who are juniors in high school right now, October of your senior year is when you're going to want to start doing that FAFSA application as soon after it opens as possible. The reason why I encourage everyone to do that FAFSA as early as possible is because a lot of the schools out there, we all have some limited pots of funding that we can't award to every student. I mean, if we could, we would, but unfortunately we can't. But so the way we determine, or one of the ways we determine who's eligible is by that FAFSA submission date. So the earlier you do that FAFSA, the higher you are in line to receive those funds, all else being equal, like your financial need situation and everything like that. So I always encourage everyone to do that FAFSA sooner rather than later. So for us here at UH Manoa, we're looking ahead and we're actually going to be starting our financial aid offers pretty soon. Usually around February and March is when we're starting to compile all of our information and process our awards. So if you are going to be attending UH Manoa in the fall, keep an eye out on your hawaii.edu email and your My UH portal, because we'll be sending out, or we're expecting to be sending out our financial aid offers either later this month or early next month. So keep an eye out there. Whenever we do have your financial aid offer ready for you, we'll send you an email at your Hawaii.edu email address to check your MyUH portal. And then we'll give you the list of steps to follow to navigate through that financial aid section to get to where you need to be to view and accept your award offers. So yeah, it'll point you to that view my financial aid section. But yeah, we do also have like links and a step-by-step tutorial on our financial aid website, because I know it's not the easiest site to navigate. So we do have good thorough instructions with pictures and all on our financial aid website. So definitely worth checking out there. So the types of financial aid that are available just from doing that financial aid, that FAFSA application, we're looking at a bunch of things like grant opportunities, say from the federal government, like the federal Pell Grant, or from the University of Hawaii at Manoa, the Manoa Opportunity Grant. Grant funds are great because they're usually, they don't have to be paid back after you're done with school, unlike a loan. But the thing about grants is that it's usually based on financial needs. So that's where we're going to have to look at your FAFSA and determine what kind of funding we're able to get for you. So if we are able to offer you any of these grants, it'll be in your financial aid offer. And if you do that FAFSA early enough, again, so some of these grants, like our Manoa Opportunity Grant, we do look at the FAFSA submission date because it is such a limited pot of funding. So just another reason to go ahead and do that FAFSA early. The federal loans that are out there that are also offered as part of your financial aid offer. I guess there's going to be different loans that are offered. The federal direct subsidized and unsubsidized loans are student loans. So they're going to actually be in the name of the student who's applying and attending school. So since the government knows that students usually don't have a very rich credit history at that point in life, these student loans are guaranteed by the government. So you don't have to do any kind of credit check for students. If they just do the FAFSA and do the necessary paperwork and are all eligible, then they'll be able to get these loan funds. For students who are considered dependent students according to FAFSA, meaning that the parent information was needed to complete that FAFSA application. There's going to be something called the Parent Plus loan, which is a federal loan for parents to take out. But since generally parents are expected to have a credit history by that point in life, there is going to be a credit check involved to determine ultimate eligibility for that loan. So there's going to be some extra steps to take if you guys are interested in that. But yeah, we have all of the information about all of the loans, the various interest rates, and then we update it as it changes from the feds. We have all of that listed on our financial aid website. So it's definitely a great resource to check out when you do have, I guess, specific questions about, I guess, exactly right, if for interest rates and repayment terms and things like that. So definitely a good resource to check out. Just before I get to these important dates, I did want to also mention the scholarships. I know that questions about scholarships are usually pretty frequent from incoming families and students. I always applaud that. I definitely am a proponent for scholarship applications and applying for scholarships rather than taking out like a loan if possible. So I always encourage everyone to apply for as many scholarships as you can. So there are various scholarships all over the place. On our financial aid website, we do have a page dedicated to scholarship websites. So we have a bunch of links listed and a lot of information for various scholarships, either from the school, such as our STAR scholarship system or University of Hawaii system scholarship applications, as well as some outside opportunities as well from various community organizations and other sources. like national search engines and things like that. So there are a lot of opportunities out there where you can find scholarship options. I just want to caution you, if you're going to jump on Google and start searching for scholarships, just exercise caution when you do that. Just remember there are some fraudsters out there who are just trying to steal your money or your identity. So if they say that you have to pay a fee up front just to apply, be kind of suspicious of that. Or if they ask you for say a little too much information, like your social security number and mother's maiden name, kind of be wary of that, because that's not really needed for these scholarship applications. So just be cautious when you are out there, searching for scholarship opportunities. But I always do recommend apply for as many scholarships as you can, because even a $500 scholarship, way better than a $500 loan with that interest tacked onto it afterwards. So definitely apply for scholarships. And I'm seeing that all of these links for our various scholarship websites and databases are coming up in the chat. So definitely click on those and bookmark them, because you definitely gonna want to go ahead and do those, especially for those of you who are going to be starting with us in the fall. So for our incoming freshman class, definitely check those out, because a lot of them are actually going to be closing soon. Like our STAR scholarship system, I believe the deadline is usually in mid-February, February 15th or so. So that's coming up in about a week and a half or so. Wow, that's it. And our UH system common scholarship application, that one is going to close on March 1st. So usually a lot of the scholarship organizations kind of run their application periods from about maybe October or November through maybe about March or so. So fall to spring for the year prior. So application period that's happening right now is for next school year. So it's almost a year in advance. So if any of you are currently juniors in high school right now, right after you do your FAFSA application in October is also when you're going to want to start applying for scholarships for college. So senior year, that fall semester of your senior year is going to be pretty busy. So just keep that in mind as you get closer to the appropriate time. So these are our important dates regarding financial aid and scholarships. So February 1st is our FAFSA priority deadline. That means that if you get your FAFSA application done by February 1st, it'll receive a priority status. So we'll be able to get to the processing sooner, and you'll be in the pool for some of those limited funds like the Manoa Opportunity Grant. Whereas if you submitted your FAFSA after this February 1st date, then you'd be out of the running for that. And then we wouldn't be able to promise that you'll be able to get that financial aid offer in a timely manner. Whereas if you did it before, then it's more guaranteed. But you can still submit the FAFSA even after this priority deadline, this February 1st priority deadline, if you haven't already. But I just say sooner the better. So as soon as you're able to do it, go ahead and do it if you haven't already. And as I mentioned, the STAR scholarship deadline, February 15th, in UH Common Scholarship application, March 1st. May 1st is the intent to enroll. So that's another important date across the country. So that's when everyone decides, or by that date, where they're going to go for college. So that's going to be a big one for us. And when our semester starts, in August for the fall semester, the soonest we can get financial aid money to disperse is going to be 10 days prior to the start of the semester. So since our first day of school is going to be August 21st, August 11th is going to be our disbursement date. So that means when the money gets dispersed from the funding sources like the federal government to the school. Then our cashier's office is able to apply all of those funds to your student accounts and everything, and then do their magic to get all of your balances paid for. And our tuition deadline tentatively is August 18th. So usually this is about when our tuition deadline is customarily, like the Friday before school starting, but we haven't received official word on that yet. So that's why it's highlighted with a question mark. So just keep in mind that may be subject to change, but just I guess keep an eye out on those emails from the school, because we always do send out reminders when those dates are set. We also will have it updated on our financial aid website as well under our important dates. We'll be able to keep you in the loop if you keep your eye out there.
Alrighty, well, thank you, Jacob, for giving us a rundown of how financial aid works here at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. At this point in time, we're going to shift to our question and answer time. And so I know some of you have already started putting questions in the Q&A section. If you look for certain questions that are very similar to yours, you can upvote them. I'm going to be the moderator. I'm going to scroll through these questions and I'm going to be asking Jacob to answer some of them. Just a quick reminder, though, that this presentation is recorded and it will be uploaded to YouTube. So you have that reference for you if you miss anything. And then moving forward from here, if you need to contact any one of our offices, whether it be financial aid or our admissions office, we have the URL as well as our email address to contact us by. Without further ado, I know you folks are all dying to get your questions answered. We're just gonna hop right into it, starting from the top. Jacob, for the total cost of attendance, hold on. How and when do students that live off campus have these housing costs? Are these housing costs included in the cost of attendance? And how does that factor into the loans or grants that they receive? And how does that get dispersed to their account?
Okay, yes. So the living expenses are considered in the cost of attendance. Let me just get back to that slide there. So yeah, so under this 13,673, that is what a student who lives off campus and is paying rent would I guess be budgeted for according to this cost of attendance. So the way it works is that I guess you'd have to receive enough aid, so loans, grants, scholarships. When everything comes into the school 10 days prior to the semester starting, cashier's office will take what they need to pay the hard costs, meaning the tuition and the university fees. And then any amount of aid that comes in that's above that will get refunded to the student as like a refund that they can use to pay for their rent, books and supplies, and personal expenses. Yeah, so I guess the key is to have enough aid coming in to cover the tuition and fees and these rent costs and other things as well. And the charges are going to be by semester. So we're looking at half of that tuition amount and half of those fees for fall. And then fall half of the aid comes in, pays for that. Then when spring comes along, then the spring half will be charged to the accounts. Yeah, it's not going to be all up front in one big payment, just by semester. Yeah.
All righty. So another question, student asks, can students who don't qualify for work study still get jobs on campus to help with their expenses? I can actually answer this one. You don't have to solely qualify for federal work study in order to get a job on campus. There are actually a ton of jobs where you can just apply as a regular student, get employment at any one of our offices or any one of our student services. And you don't have to have federal work study in order to apply and get these jobs. We do have a student job portal called Siki that someone will drop in the link in just a bit. You would need your student username and password in order to log in, and then you can search for whatever job that you feel you qualify for, that you are interested in. Alrighty, Jacob, next question. What are the next steps after submitting the FAFSA application? Can you explain the process from once they submit it, what happens, and how do they get their financial aid after that?
Sure. Yeah. So once you submit your FAFSA, um, it they FAFSA sends it to us, so electronically. So they'll make it available to us to pull down from their database, and we'll take a look at everything. We'll send you an email to your Hawaii.edu email account if there's anything else that we need in order to complete the process. Because I know that about a third of students out there do get selected for a process called verification. This requires students and families to provide some additional tax documents so that the financial aid office can verify. I guess it's the federal government's way of making sure everything's legitimate out there by spot checking about a third of applicants. So that being said, if you do have any outstanding requirements that we need to collect in order to finish processing, we'll send you an email and make a message available in your Hawaii or your MyUH account. And if not, if we don't need to collect anything from you, we'll just go ahead and follow our process to get you that financial aid offer, and we'll send you that message in your Hawaii.edu email. So if you notice that Hawaii.edu email keeps popping up, because that's where we're going to send all of our official communications. So make sure you have that set up and you're checking it regularly for any important information, not just from financial aid, but from all of the other offices on school or on campus. So yeah, if there's no additional documents we need, we'll just send you your financial aid offer when it is ready. And we're looking at maybe later this month or early next month. That's when we're expecting to send those out.
Awesome. Thank you, Jacob. So I have a question. Will there be financial aid information for out-of-state students or for students that may defer for 1 year?
Well, for out-of-state students, I guess they'd be eligible for pretty much all of the aid, as long as it's not restricted to resident students only. Students who may defer for 1 year, you just have to make sure you do that FAFSA application again for that next school year as well, because the FAFSA does have to be done for every school year. So October 1st, prior to that school year that you'll be starting back up, is when you're going to want to take care of that FAFSA. So yeah.
Another question, Jacob, how do grants work? If you can explain kind of what they are and how do students basically qualify?
Sure. Yeah, grants are basically, in most cases, free money. And it's usually from either a government institution or an educational institution. So say like the federal government, they have their big Pell Grant. These grants are usually also based on financial need or have some kind of financial need component. Since they are free money, it's usually reserved for, I guess, the students whose families make less rather than more. So as long as you fall into the eligible categories, based on the criteria of the grants, say for the federal Pell Grant, you have to have a certain EFC number or expected family contribution number that FAFSA calculates in order to be eligible. And for students who are eligible, then we're able to get you that grant fund. Say like the Manoa Opportunity Grant, which is from the UH Manoa campus. For that, we'll take a look at the FAFSA report and the cost of attendance to determine how much financial need you have. And we'll also have to take a look at that FAFSA submission date as well, and to determine if we're able to get it for you. One caveat, though, is that if you're part of the Western Undergraduate Exchange Program, you wouldn't be eligible for the Manoa Opportunity Grant from the school because it's kind of like double dipping in that same pot of funding. That's doing the tuition subsidy as well as the grant fund. So we do have it for resident students and non-resident students, but unfortunately we don't have one for WUI students right now.
Awesome. Thanks for the clarification there. Even I didn't know that. All right. I have another student that asks, who do students contact for VA benefits or the GI Bill? And how can they confirm that they received in-state tuition using the GI Bill? Correct me if I'm wrong, Jacob, but I believe that's through the Office of the Registrars that they can contact. There's a VA representative within that office that will
Correct.
help you through that process to get those GA funds sorted out.
Yep, correct.
Awesome. Okay. Another question, does room and board include the meal plan?
Yes, for I guess basically room and board can equate to rent and food. So yeah, the meal plan is factored into those costs. So if you're looking at that 13,673, that kind of factors in an average of, I guess, certain, I guess like a average of, I guess, all of our different residence halls on campus, as well as a survey of various small apartments nearby, as well as a basic meal plan or equivalent of what that would be off campus. So it's kind of a big average of all of that. So the meal plan is included in that room and board amount.
Awesome. Another student asks, will they qualify for in-state tuition after one academic year of attending UH Manoa? I can answer that. There's more to establishing residency than just coming here and living here for one academic year. There's a bunch of different requirements that the student should meet. We do have residency counselors in our admissions office, and there is a link down below to learn more about gaining residency status. So you can click on that link and connect with one of our residency counselors for more in-depth information as to how to gain residency status and get in-state tuition. Jacob, does having no financial support from your parents allow the student to receive financial aid?
So that's a little tricky. Generally for students who, I guess there's a section of the FAFSA where it asks about a dozen questions or so. Things like if you are active duty military, veteran, if you have dependent children, things like that. So there's about a dozen questions or so. That determines whether or not we need your parents' information to complete the FAFSA. Even if you're paying your own taxes and you're living on your own, if you're still considered a dependent student according to FAFSA, based on those questions, you'll still have to provide your parent information. I know that's the case for a lot of students, especially students who are coming in maybe after taking a couple of years off. But that's usually if you're 24 or older, that's usually the cutoff for a lot of students, whether they need their parent information or not. It's usually the age that changes that dependency status. But for the most part, we will need your parents' information, even if they aren't providing any kind of financial assistance for you. But if you are completely out of communication with your parents, then that may be something that you want to contact the financial aid office about to determine, I guess, what other options there are available. Because there are some situations where we can kind of make a little exceptions based on federal rules.
All right, thank you, Jacob. Another question about the GI Bill. Does it reduce one's cost to have them pay in-state tuition or the WUI rate?
I'm not sure about the tuition change or the tuition rate. I guess it would depend on their, I guess, like veteran status or military status, right, Keith?
I think so. Yeah, depending upon your benefits and how much aid you receive. I think it varies. So can I give you a straight answer there? For any further questions, we'd encourage you to contact our VA representative for more information. Another question, Jacob, for you. When we select schools in our FAFSA and put UH Manoa down as an option, does it mean that you are automatically awarded financial aid?
Not automatically, but if you do list, or whichever schools you list, the FAFSA report will get sent to those schools. So the state UH Manoa will get that access to that report. Then we'll have to go ahead and run it through our processes of review and financial aid packaging. So we'll take a look at what kind of funds we have available, what you're eligible for, and figure out what we can get for you. So that's why it kind of takes a little while to get all those offers out. But once we do have an offer ready for you, we'll let you know. Or if there's anything holding up the process, like a verification or any other kind of documents that we need to collect, or if there's any discrepancies that we have to figure out, we'll let you know that way as well. So either way, you should hear from us. If you don't hear from us for a while, then that means we're probably just working on getting an award offer for you.
Great. I have another question. Is WUI automatic? I can answer that one. If you live in a state that is west of the Rockies, so for instance, like California, Alaska, Oregon, Washington, and you submit an application through our admissions office, if you are admitted as a student, then you automatically qualify for the Western Undergraduate Exchange tuition rate. So you'll be paying the middle column. There's no other application that you need to submit. And what's great about a university is that all majors are eligible to receive this. So it doesn't matter if you're theater, business, art, engineering, all majors are eligible to receive this. Jacob, question for you. Are merit scholarships included in your financial aid package?
For the most part, not in the beginning. Usually we'll make our financial aid offer before we hear word on all of the merit scholarships from the various, I guess, administrative committees across the campus. But as we do find out, say if like you're majoring in business and the College of Business wants to give you a merit scholarship, then when we find out from the College of Business, we'll put it in and we'll make any kind of necessary adjustments to financial aid that we'll need to in order to fit everything within that cost of attendance and your financial need limits. So that's when we'll make adjustments to your aid. And we always try to knock out the worst aid first, meaning like the highest interest rates. We try to reduce those before anything else whenever possible. Or like say if you applied for a new Warrior scholarship, when we do find out about those, sometimes we'll be able to get those in before a financial aid offer goes out. So then those will be accounted for in there. So it kind of really depends, but it really depends on the timing of when we find out about those merit scholarships and when your financial aid offer goes out.
Yeah, so just a follow-up question. Can you stack scholarships and financial aid?
Yeah, you can receive both, but then as long as you're receiving any of the federal financial aid or institutional financial aid, so any kind of need-based funding, that we will have to follow those rules to fit everything within that cost of attendance. So it's in very rare cases, I've seen students who receive only scholarships and they were able to exceed their cost of attendance budget since everything was coming from outside sources. So in those cases, it really pays to hustle on those applications.
Yeah. Is it required to be already enrolled at our university in order to receive financial aid?
You just have to be accepted into a degree-seeking program in order for us to be able to put together a financial aid offer. You have to be enrolled in order for the payments to start coming through. If you're not enrolled, then the money won't be moving come that disbursement date. It'll just be sitting there waiting.
Okay, another student asked, can I still apply for the New Warrior Scholarship? Unfortunately, the deadline for that scholarship has already passed for this academic year, so you would not be able to apply for the New Warrior. Another question, when will the students know if the scholarships are awarded, before or after the intent to enroll? So for the New Warrior Scholarship, I can answer that question. The New Warrior Scholarship, we're looking to send out award notifications roughly about mid-March time. And typically for all of the scholarships, whether it be Star Scholarship or Common Scholarship, we try to award and notify students before the commitment day of May 1st. This is so that you can have a better picture as to whether or not it's affordable to come and attend our university with all of your financial aid awards as well as your scholarship money. So yes, we'll try to package you folks as early as possible. Scholarships included if you did apply for any one of them. Jacob, question for you. Are STAR scholarships only for Hawaii residents?
No, they are not limited to Hawaii residents only. They are open to, well, I guess depending on the funding source, they can be open to students with any residency status. But since a lot of them are from private donors in our community, some of them do restrict it to residents only. But I believe when you're searching through the STAR scholarship pages, you can actually kind of set your search to do like a best fit based off of your like residency status and your grade level and your major. That way it kind of gets you a slightly more tailored output of scholarship opportunities you can check out. But yeah, there are a lot that are open to any residency status.
Jacob, one more question. Are you eligible for grants each year?
Yeah, as long as you meet the grant criteria, usually it's mostly a financial component. So you have to have financial need according to those FAFSA reports. And if you continue to have the need that falls in that eligible category, then you'll be able to receive grant funding.
Okay. Another question, if you are awarded the Manoa Excellence Scholarship as a non-resident, then become a resident, what happens with the scholarship? I can answer that one. Unfortunately, if you were awarded the Manoa Excellence Scholarship, you cannot become a resident of the state of Hawaii while you're receiving the scholarship. One of the requirements for residency is that you can only take a maximum of 5 credits per semester for that full year that you live here in Hawaii. If you receive the Manoa Excellence Scholarship, though, you are required to take 12 credits per semester. And so it just doesn't work in terms of doing 2 things at the same time. Another question, what is work study like? Jacob, if you can elaborate, what happens when a student receives federal work study and how do they go about that process of finding a job?
Yeah, so for federal work study, that would be, I guess, offered as part of a financial aid offer. It's essentially a pot of funding from the federal government that your employer, usually an on-campus employer, will be able to draw the funds from in order to pay your wages, or at least 0.75% of your wages. So essentially, it's money that's sitting there that gets paid to you through paychecks while you work. The actual experience of being a work study student, I can't really speak to since I was never on federal work study when I was a student at UH. I did have a non-work study job though when I was a student. It was in a department called duplicating services where I just sat around and watched the Xerox machine make copies. But it was great because I was also able to study while I was doing that job. And on-campus jobs, I can say that our on-campus employers are very, very understanding of student schedules because we know that you're going to be here as a student first and an employee second. So if you ever need time to meet with a professor or work with a group to do a project or study or anything like that, take finals, our campus employers are more than accommodating for your schedule for all of those kinds of things. Whereas if you work like in a restaurant or retail outside of campus, then you're probably going to be expected to work those late closing shifts after your full day of school, close down your shop at midnight, and then you still need to find time to study and then take an exam in the morning. So yeah, I'm a proponent for work study and on-campus work if you're able to get it.
Right. Sounds like a fun job, Jacob.
Oh yeah, I mean, I could study.
Alrighty. What happens if a parent is approved for the Parent Plus loan, but they cannot afford to take it out? Or what happens if a parent doesn't qualify for a Parent Plus loan? What are some alternative options?
Yeah, so the key is whether or not the parent is approved, if they get their credit approval or not. So if they do receive a credit approval, but then they still feel they're not able to afford taking out the loan, unfortunately, that's very limited options from there. Only other thing would be, say, like maybe like a private loan from a private lender, but then that's still going to be a loan, and usually it'll be in the student's name instead of the parent's name. But for parents who do apply for the credit check and then get denied based on credit, there are options for the student to request that their student loans be increased to the independent student amount, which is usually a few $1,000s higher for the year, based on the parent loan rejection. But then that credit check denial has to come through. That's like the key part of that allowance that the government makes. But again, it's only going to be like a few $1,000 increase for the student loan. That's usually just a fraction of what a parent loan could be during a school year. So yeah, beyond that, then the next option would be like private loans. Yeah.
Thank you, Jacob. I know you kind of touched upon this already, but do external scholarships affect a student's financial aid package or any one of UH system scholarships?
Yeah, so it may affect financial aid eligibility. So like things like the grants from the school or like federal loans or things like that. So if you are receiving any kind of outside funding from any outside scholarship sources or anything, please do let the financial aid office know. You can like say email us a copy of your award letter. That way we can kind of factor everything in and make any kind of necessary adjustments sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Another question, will all scholarships be in or awarded by May 1st? Again, we'll try to get, in terms of the New Warrior Scholarship, as well as your financial aid package, we'll try to get it to you as early as possible. I know Jacob has said late February, early March is when they expect to send out financial aid packages. In terms of our New Warrior Scholarship, probably around mid-March, you should be notified. And as for Star Scholarship, as well as our Common Scholarship, they'll try to get you awarded before May 1st so that you have that information so that you can make a decision about whether or not to commit to our university. Jacob, I have a question for you. What can be done if a student's family financial situation has changed that is not reflective on the FAFSA? So for instance, if one of their parents is now currently unemployed, what should they do?
Yeah, good question. And that's been happening a lot over the last 3 years, especially since FAFSA looks at the prior year's financial information. A lot can happen in those 2 years, especially if those 2 years happened during COVID. So we do have an option for students in that kind of situation where they do have some kind of big drastic change in family income. You can just contact our office and ask for a, I guess, a reevaluation based on a change of income. And then we have like a set of forms that you can complete, fill in the information and provide some additional documentation, whatever the form requires. And then you can submit that to our office for reconsideration based on more current financial information rather than the prior year. Yeah, so I think it's called like a reduction in income form or something like that. You can contact our financial aid office and ask for that.
Thank you, Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
So how does financial aid or scholarships work if a student is planning to study abroad?
Yeah, as long as it's through a Manoa study abroad program, we'll be able to provide financial aid. So either through our study abroad office or our Manoa International Exchange office. So we do have a couple of options for studying abroad, and yeah, financial aid can be used as part of that or to help fund it. So there's just some steps. You'll need to make sure you get into that study abroad program. And then we usually work with you and the study abroad program to make sure we can figure out all the necessary program costs and the financial aid that we're able to get for you.
Great. Do you have to commit to UH in order to apply for scholarships? I can answer that one. No, you do not need to commit. There are a lot of students that are applying for scholarships right now through our Star Scholarship database, Common Scholarship app. For those of you who applied for New Warrior, great. You don't have to commit because National Commitment Day is May 1st once again. Jacob, question: how do you determine how much aid each student gets?
Well, for a lot of the different funds that we deal with, they are limited to a certain amount per year. So even for the federal funding, like the loans, the student loans, they're limited to certain amounts. Our grant funds are limited to certain amounts per year. So it really depends on, I guess, the FAFSA report to determine, I guess, which kinds of funding you're eligible for and what we can get for you. The only funds that are not limited based on an annual amount are the Parent Plus loans or the Graduate Plus loans from the federal government. So for parents of dependent students and for graduate students, there are these, basically it's like a Parent Plus loan. So based, like I mentioned earlier, credit check is involved, but then potentially there's no annual limit for it. It can go up to the maximum cost of attendance amount. That's the only thing that's going to really cap it year to year. So potentially, if we're a non-resident student, if you only want to use a Parent Plus loan, you could get that $51,875 in Parent Plus loan funding. But I don't recommend it because that Parent Plus interest rate is substantially higher than a student loan. I mean, still lower than credit cards out there, but still not the best. But something you want to definitely look into and consider when you're doing your financial planning for the school year. But yeah, it really depends on the types of aid that you're eligible for as to how much we can get for you.
Yeah, and each student is so different in their financial situation too, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely, case by case.
Can room and board be paid in monthly installments over the course of the academic year?
That I don't believe for living on campus that's an option. I know that our housing department has certain deadline for housing payments. But if you're going to be living off campus in an apartment on your own, then I guess whatever your rent situation is with the landlord, that's what you have to work out. But yeah, for living on campus, I know that they do have a certain payment deadlines. And I don't believe I've seen any kind of month-by-month program for living on campus.
Thank you, Jacob. Another student asks, what is the expected cost of attendance for a Hawai'i student? And in terms of financial aid, if they qualify for grants, I guess how would that factor into their Hawai'i cost?
Okay, so for the Hawai'i cost of attendance, still this slide that's right up here. This middle column is what we're looking at for the cost of attendance. This is the general Hawai'i students' cost of attendance. So the hard costs you're looking at are those tuition and fees. Those will get charged to you when you sign up for your classes. If you're going to be living on campus in one of our residence halls, then there's going to be a charges for your meal plan and your dorm fees. But it's probably not going to be that up to that budget amount. I believe for incoming freshmen, it's usually less because of the residence halls they're placed in. But yeah, this is the Hawai'i cost of attendance for Hawai'i students. And I guess as you do receive funding, usually our cashier's office will take what they need to cover whatever hard charges you have. So your tuition, your fees, and your housing and meal plan costs if you're living on campus. That's what they'll take from these various fundings that you've been awarded when the money comes in. But if you're going to be living off campus, it'll just be that tuition fees, then they'll send you the remainder. Granted, you have enough aid to cover all of your charges and then some to help pay for your, I guess, the rent and things like that.
Thank you, Jacob. All righty, we are nearing the end of our webinar for today. So just one final question, Jacob. A student asked that when they logged into the STAR scholarship portal, it looks like a lot of the applications are due April 15th, not February 15th. When is the actual deadline?
April 15th. That is an excellent question.
So there are a bunch of scholarships within the STAR scholarship database. For a lot of them, February 15th is a deadline, but because there's just so many scholarships within the database, some scholarships are due a little bit later. And so you would have to search for each specific scholarship and see the deadline for those, and then apply before that specific deadline. February 15th was just kind of like a blanketed term for STAR scholarships. But there are some that are due later, I believe.
Yeah, that April 15th is kind of a new thing because forever it's always been April 15th for everything.
You mean February 15th?
Yeah, February 15th. Yeah, so I guess yeah, I mean, if anything is still open till April 15th, you can still apply. But I would recommend not to count on that and act like everything is due on February 15th so you get it done sooner rather than
later.
Yeah.
Alrighty, folks. Well, that is all the time that we have today. I want to thank you folks for taking the time out of your day to come and chat with us and learn about financial aid. If you have any other additional questions, you can definitely reach out to any one of our offices, our admissions office, as well as our financial aid office. Jacob will be more than happy to help answer any questions that you might have moving forward from here. Take care, guys. We'll see you hopefully next week for our housing webinar next week, Wednesday, same time, 2 p.m. If not, have a wonderful rest of your day, guys. Bye.
Thank you, everybody.